This is the second 500Hz QD-OLED monitor that MSI have released this year. It's the MPG 271QR X50. It's a 27-inch size screen with a 1440p resolution and a super high refresh rate that's actually the fastest currently available from any QD-OLED panel. We've already reviewed their MAG series 500Hz screen in September, and today we're going to be looking at the MPG version, and we'll be focusing primarily on the aspects that are different to the other model in terms of features, specs and performance, so we can see whether those extra features are worth the additional cost. The underlying QD-OLED panel is exactly the same. It's from Samsung's 2025 lineup, and it's officially part of their third generation technology, offering the highest refresh rate and brightest panel that they've produced so far. It's the first QD-OLED panel to meet the VESA Display HDR 500 True Black certification, in fact. Because it's using the same panel, most of the performance and results will be very similar or the same to the MAG model, so we won't repeat all of the data and testing in this video. If you want to know loads more detail about the panel performance, the colours, HDR, response times and everything else, please check out our review of the MAG model that we'll link to in the description below. So why have they released another monitor with the same panel? Well, the MPG version has a fair few extra features and technologies that separate it from the MAG version, and that you might find useful and worth that modest additional price. Let's go through them all. Firstly, there's full-speed DisplayPort 2.1 connectivity on offer here, supporting the full UHBR20 speeds and 80 gigabits per second of bandwidth. That's enough to support the full spec with an uncompressed video signal and without needing to use DSC. So if you've got a modern graphics card which has the same connection, like an RTX 50 series card, then this might be a useful feature for you. The MAG model offers only DisplayPort 1.4 connection, and so on that version DSC is needed to support the full spec. And while it is visually lossless and has little impact nowadays on support for NVIDIA features like DSR and DLDSR, as long as you've got a top-end GPU, some people are still searching for a DP 2.1 monitor to bypass DSC altogether. The MPG version can offer you that. The other key connectivity difference is that the MPG model has a much higher power delivery from its USB Type-C connection, offering up to 98 watts, while the MAG model has only 15 watts. This makes it more versatile for powering more devices and laptops properly, whereas the MAG model power delivery is more appropriate for phones and tablets, and less so for laptops with its more limited power delivery. The MPG model also has two 5 gigabits per second USB-A data ports, along with the required upstream connection as well, back to your PC, whereas the MAG model doesn't have any at all. So if you're keen to connect peripherals and game controllers perhaps to the screen, that could be an important factor for you. With these extra USB-A data ports, this also allows the MPG version to offer a KVM switch function as well, so that you can control two systems from a single keyboard and mouse setup. Again, that's potentially useful to some users. The MPG model supports MSI's Gaming Intelligence app as well, a useful piece of software for controlling and configuring your screen. With loads of settings to play with, it also includes some advanced features like being able to auto-switch between different presets and modes when different applications or games are loaded, or the ability to create keyboard shortcuts for certain functions and settings. You can also use this software to easily update the firmware on the screen, and it's overall pretty versatile and useful. The MAG model doesn't support the Gaming Intelligence software at all, although importantly it does still offer support for firmware updates via a different method. As well as that Gaming Intelligence software, the MPG on-screen menu has also had a bit of a makeover, with a new software design and layout that looks pretty good. It's still quick and easy to navigate thanks to the joystick toggle on the back of the screen, and there's loads of settings to play with and that are available in the menu. While the software might have been updated, the MAG version still includes most of the same functionality in the menu, although MSI have added a few useful extra settings on the MPG model. That includes finally a control over the gamma, which has not been available on their previous OLED monitors, and they've also now opened up access to controls like gamma and color temp when you're using the emulation modes like the sRGB mode, for instance. That gives you increased flexibility, which is great news. We'll take a look at performance and accuracy a bit later on. One of the other key new features added to the MPG model is MSI's new AI Care sensor, which is a human motion sensor built into the front of the screen, and it's designed to turn the screen off when it's not in use and then turn it back on automatically when you return. It's also got a few other tricks up its sleeve, and it's a particularly useful feature on OLED screens as it can really help mitigate the risk of image retention and burn-in. This new sensor necessitates a small chin on the bottom of the screen, which isn't present on the MAG model, as the sensor is housed in that section. One thing we did find a little annoying was the protruding and pretty bright power LED on the bottom of the chin though, although you can turn this off in the on-screen menu at least if you want to. The sensor itself has a 120cm range and a 75-degree detection angle, and unlike some competing approaches on other OLED monitors, MSI's AI Care sensor technology uses a CMOS sensor to capture images every 0.2 seconds, and then it's powered by a chip with a neural processing unit algorithm so that it can apparently accurately identify human presence, and that will in turn prevent false detection and unintended screen turn-offs. This takes their sensor a step beyond standard motion sensors, which can't tell the difference between human users and other movement. Note that the sensor does not store any images or data, it's not connected to the internet as the processing is done locally, and it doesn't include any image transmission either, so there are no privacy concerns there, MSI say. They've also said that there was no significant power consumption increase from its inclusion. The AI Care sensor offers a range of supported features and can be controlled either through Windows 11 integration or just directly from the monitor menu itself. You'd have to use the monitor mode configuration if you're using the screen from a Mac or a Linux system, for example, or for any external devices like a games console, for instance. There's settings for lock on leave, which will turn the screen off when you move away, and then wake on approach, which will turn it back on when you come back. There's also an adaptive dim setting, which will dim the screen when it detects that you've looked away. That's quite a clever additional feature. And then when you move away from the screen, it actually turns the screen fully off as opposed to just displaying a black image. So one minor annoyance is that when you return, it takes a couple of seconds to power back on and you get the boot up logo on the screen as well. The inclusion of that AI Care sensor also allows it to operate as an ambient light sensor, dimming and brightening the screen depending on your ambient light conditions, which is not available on the MAG model at all. This sensor can also adjust the color temperature of the display depending on your ambient light levels, although that's only available in certain preset modes, not including any of the color space emulation modes like sRGB or DCI-P3 for instance. The AI Care sensor is part of MSI's OLED Care 3.0 technologies, and a feature that they've told us will feature on other future OLED monitors too, although the available OLED Care settings in the menu remain the same as on the MAG model. It's just the sensor that's new here. Obviously, this screen is aimed primarily at gamers with a very high 500Hz refresh rate. The gaming performance is the same as the MAG version with exceptional motion clarity thanks to the near instant response times and that very high refresh rate. You get super high frame rate support, and it's ideal for fast-paced and competitive gaming situations. It's got basically the same super low input lag as well, including for 60Hz devices. Check out our review of the MAG model for loads more analysis, including details on the added black frame insertion mode, VRR flicker, response times and everything else that you might want to know about gaming. The only difference of note really on the MPG model is that for PC gaming, the 24.5-inch aspect ratio mode supports the full 500Hz refresh rate at 1440p or other resolutions, whereas for some reason on the MAG model, you could only use this up to 240Hz in that mode. Perhaps that might be important to some gamers who want to simulate those smaller screen sizes for certain gaming situations. 4K 50Hz support was also added for games consoles, and that was missing before on the MAG model, but everything else remained pretty much the same as the MAG, offering decent overall support for consoles, including 4K 120Hz and VRR support. One gap that we'd like to see addressed in the future perhaps is that there's no support for using the BFI function from a console due to how MSI have implemented this feature. That's the same on both the MAG and the MPG models. There's loads more testing and information for gamers in our review of the MAG version, so we won't repeat all of that here. Check that out in the description below. MSI seem to have focused a little bit more as well on the accuracy and calibration of this MPG model, and we saw better gamma tracking in all of the modes than on the MAG model, along with small improvements to the color temperature as well. A new gamma control in the on-screen menu allows you to select other target gamma configurations, with overall pretty accurate results in each of those modes, especially for the lower gamma settings. It's nice to see MSI have offered this setting now on this screen, something that we've been suggesting for a little while now in our reviews actually. We won't go into loads of other detail about the colour performance and gamut here, as it's very similar to the MAG model, so you can check out that review if you want to know loads more data. Worth noting though is that there's also some decent improvements here to the sRGB emulation mode, which is very accurate overall, and it's been configured now to an sRGB gamma curve on the MPG model instead of 2.2. That significantly improves the shadow detail on the screen, which had been poor on the MAG model but was now excellent on the MPG model. Also of note, and an improvement with the MPG model, is that you now have access to configure not only the brightness control, but also the gamma and color temp settings when you're using the 3 emulation modes. So this is the most flexible that we've seen from any MSI OLED screen so far. It's nice to see MSI open up those controls in the emulation modes, and that gives more customization and tweaking capability. You'll also find our best settings guide linked in the description below for this screen, along with our calibrated ICC profile if you want to check that out. HDR capabilities and performance were also very similar to the MAG model, showing some reasonable improvements over older QD-OLED monitors in peak white luminance measurements, thanks to the optimized panel and the True Black 500 certification. This MPG model has around an 11% higher white luminance in both the True Black 500 and the Peak 1000 modes than those older QD-OLED monitors, although the MAG model had reached slightly brighter with an 18% higher luminance than those old models as well. So it had been a little brighter, it seems, than this MPG version. This screen includes the new EOTF boost mode, which is now being rolled out across the other models in MSI's range, and that's likely to be the preferred option for maximising the brightness in HDR content while still being able to reach up to the 1000 nits peak brightness spec of the panel. We talked about this a lot more in our review of the MAG model, so check that out if you want to know loads more about how it works, comparisons and data, but it can offer some decent improvements in practice, particularly over the Peak 1000 mode, which is, as usual, darker than intended in those brighter, high APL scenes. There's some small differences between the MAG and the MPG models, with the MPG showing a little bit more roll-off for light grey shades in the EOTF curve, but an improved RGB balance and colour temperature, which was great news. You can see some more detailed comparisons here between the MAG and MPG models, with the MPG model being more accurate than the MAG, like was seen in the SDR modes. This also helps improve colour accuracy in HDR modes nicely, taking us from a Delta E 2.6 average on the MAG model down to a 0.9 Delta E average on this MPG model. All of these settings and extra features on the MPG model come at an additional cost, with this MPG being priced at $899 in the UK when it's launched, making it £100 more than the MAG version standard price. Although that could of course be on sale by the time that this MPG version is released, as it is right now during Black Friday sales as well. You can check pricing for both models using our links in the description below. The MAG version has been available for a little while now, and this MPG version is due to be released this quarter on the 25th of November, we're told, in the UK, although availability will vary by region. You'll have to decide whether you want or need any of those additional features, but either way the screen performs really well with extremely impressive gaming performance and some decent extras and improvements over the MAG model. For loads more testing and data, as I keep saying, check out our review of the MAG model, but let us know in the comments section below here if you're considering either of these screens and which one you might go for. Don't forget to hit subscribe to stay up to date on all of our other future monitor content and news. Thank you for watching, we'll catch you next time.